A shattered radio intercept crackles through static, fragments of a conversation lost in chaos. Unidentified destroyers, speed and firepower, impossible to track. A grainy photograph taken at dawn reveals a sleek silhouette cutting through fog. No known class matches its profile. The German naval intelligence, accustomed to the slow evolution of warship design, faced a paradox. A fleet of destroyers appearing overnight, outpacing and outgunning their own vessels. How was this even possible? What shadowy hand had rewritten the naval balance with such sudden ruthlessness? The Z-class destroyers emerged, not just as machines of war, but as enigmas that shattered the Kriegsmarine's assumptions and cast a long shadow over the Atlantic theater. Behind this enigma lay a collision of desperation and innovation. In late 1943, amid mounting losses, the German Admiralty authorized secret collaboration with engineers who had defected from rival powers, an uneasy alliance of necessity, and espionage. Blueprints, smuggled in coded parcels, revealed a radical design philosophy, maximizing speed and firepower while sacrificing traditional armor. A leather-bound dossier, recovered from a burned-out command post, hinted at conflicting agendas within the high command. Some saw the Z-class as a potential game-changer, others as a reckless gamble. Why had no one anticipated the speed with which these vessels would be deployed? Was there a deliberate concealment of their capabilities, or had the fog of war blinded every observer? The heart of the Z-class lay in its unprecedented propulsion system, twin steam turbines capable of pushing the destroyers to 42 knots, far faster than any Allied counterpart. Armed with 6 128mm guns and an array of torpedoes, these ships were designed for hit-and-run tactics, trading armor for agility. Yet, blueprints uncovered in a bombed shipyard showed critical vulnerabilities: thin hull plating and rudimentary anti-aircraft defenses. Engineers' annotation in the margin, hastily scrawled, reads, "Speed is our shield, but it may not hold." What was the true cost of this design gamble? Did the Z-class embody a desperate hope or a flawed vision doomed from inception? The Z-class made its combat debut in the North Sea, January 1944. A squadron commander's report described initial astonishment. The destroyers outpaced British escorts and delivered precise salvos that sank 2 frigates in under 10 minutes. But the success was short-lived. Within weeks, Allied intelligence intercepted communications, revealing tactics to counter the Z-class's speed, deploying radar-equipped aircraft and coordinated depth-charge barrages. A photo taken by a U.S. Navy pilot captures a Z-class destroyer ablaze, listing heavily after a torpedo strike. Why did the initial triumph turn so quickly into vulnerability? Had the Kriegsmarine underestimated the enemy's capacity to adapt? What lessons were buried beneath these early encounters? Allied forces rapidly adapted, implementing new countermeasures that exploited the Z-class's weaknesses. Radar-driven night attacks and airstrikes became routine, forcing the Germans to retrofit their ships with enhanced anti-aircraft guns and electronic jamming devices. Tactical manuals, seized from a sunken destroyer, outlined desperate attempts to evade detection, zigzag patterns, speed bursts, and smoke screens. Yet, these adjustments came too late. A map recovered from the Admiralty archives charts a shrinking operational zone for the Z-class, confined increasingly to coastal waters. How did these countermeasures erode the once formidable advantage? Was the rapid Allied response a reflection of superior intelligence or a fatal miscalculation by German strategists? By spring 1944, the tide had turned decisively. Resource shortages crippled maintenance, fuel rationing grounded many vessels. A classified protocol reveals orders to concentrate Z-class ships into a single convoy foray. 4. Final offensive, an operation that ended in disaster as Allied submarines and aircraft decimated the flotilla within days. Photographs of burning hulks littering the channel attest to the sudden collapse of the Z-class threat. What internal fractures and external pressures converged to bring about such a rapid downfall? Was this the inevitable fate of a fleet born in haste and secrecy? Or did deeper failures within command seal their fate? The map of losses tells a story of brilliance undone by relentless attrition and overwhelming opposition. Each episode is a document I pull from the dust of the archives. Share your own stories. Many of you have relatives who lived through that time, and your words help connect personal memory with archival evidence. Stay curious. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode tomorrow. The aftermath of the Lost Convoy operation left the Kriegsmarine grappling with a stark reality. The Z-class destroyers, once heralded as a breakthrough, were now liabilities. The command bunker, thick with cigar smoke and tension, was littered with maps marked by red crosses, each symbolizing a lost vessel. An intercepted Allied communique, partially decoded, boasted of the swift elimination of the phantom threat. Yet, German officers whispered of something more unsettling. The Z-class had been a double-edged sword, exposing not only tactical flaws, but also cracks in intelligence and morale. How could such a promising project unravel so quickly? Were these losses simply the price of war, or did they reveal a deeper erosion within the German naval apparatus? Behind closed doors, engineers and strategists debated the future of the Z-class. Technical reports, bound in oil-stained folders, detailed desperate attempts to retrofit the destroyers with reinforced hulls and improved radar systems, measures that strained already scarce resources. A blueprint, annotated with warnings about structural fatigue, hinted at design compromises made under political pressure. Meanwhile, the shipyards, bombed relentlessly by Allied air raids, struggled to keep pace with repairs. An engineer's diary found in the ruins speaks of frustration and resignation. We built monsters that could not outrun their fate. Was the drive for innovation blinded by desperation? Could a different approach have altered the course of the Z-class saga? The psychological toll on crews was equally profound. Memoirs from surviving sailors describe nights filled with the roar of engines and the acrid smell of burning fuel, juxtaposed with the constant dread of air attacks and submarine ambushes. One faded photograph shows a group of young men, faces etched with exhaustion, standing beside a battered Z-class hull in harbor. Rumors circulated of mutinies and refusals to undertake missions perceived as suicidal. How did the rapid losses and relentless pressure shape the human dimension of this naval gamble? Did the promise of speed and power come at the cost of morale and cohesion? Allied forces, emboldened by their success, intensified their hunt for any remaining Z-class vessels. Intelligence officers pieced together patterns from intercepted communications, revealing shrinking operational zones and desperate attempts at camouflage. A captured tactical manual outlined evasive maneuvers that had become increasingly futile. In one haunting aerial reconnaissance photo, a solitary Z-class destroyer drifts motionless, smoke curling from its gun turrets. Ghost ship abandoned to the sea. How did the Allies' mastery of intelligence and technology seal the fate of these destroyers? Was the rapid neutralization of the Z-class an example of overwhelming industrial and technological superiority, or did German overreach sow the seeds of defeat? Amid the wreckage, a final secret surfaced, one that hinted at internal sabotage or espionage. A decrypted message from an unknown source suggested that vital design specifications had been leaked to the Allies months before the first deployment. Investigations within the Naval Intelligence Division uncovered discrepancies in personnel records and unexplained communications with foreign agents. A tattered file labeled Operation Veil hinted at a covert effort to undermine the Z-class project from within. Could this betrayal explain the rapid Allied countermeasures? Was the very innovation that stunned Germany compromised by shadows lurking inside its own ranks? As the war dragged deeper into 1944, the fate of the Z-class destroyers became entwined with Germany's faltering strategic position. A weathered map, annotated with hastily drawn retreat lines and fleet movements, reveals the shrinking perimeter where these ships could operate without immediate destruction. Fuel shortages had become crippling. The once prized speed of the Z-class was now moot, tethering them to ports under constant threat from Allied bombers. A grim photograph from a dockyard shows several Z-class hulls partially dismantled, cannibalized for spare parts to keep others afloat. How did the logistical nightmare undermine what was meant to be a swift and dominant force? Was the German Naval Command blind to the mounting vulnerabilities buried beneath their grand designs? Amid these mounting challenges, the Kriegsmarine's leadership faced agonizing decisions. Secret memos from the Naval High Command, marked top secret, revealed deep divisions. Some advocated for halting the Z-class program entirely, redirecting scarce resources toward submarines, while others clung to the hope of a last, decisive naval breakthrough. The tension seeped into the shipyards where engineers worked under duress, their blueprints scribbled with notes of emergency modifications and field repairs. One engineer's sketch, found in a personal journal, shows an attempt to install enhanced anti-aircraft batteries, an admission that speed alone could no longer guarantee survival. Did these internal conflicts accelerate the decline of the Z-class? Were the decisions made in these smoke-filled rooms the real turning point in their brief, tumultuous history? The psychological strain on the crews deepened as the reality of their missions shifted from offensive strikes to desperate defensive maneuvers. A rare film reel smuggled out by a crew member captures moments of tense silence, broken by the distant drone of Allied bombers overhead. The destroyer's once vaunted speed turned into frantic escapes from overwhelming firepower. Letters home, preserved in family archives, speak of weariness and growing fatalism. One sailor's words stand out. "We race not toward victory, but toward oblivion." How did this erosion of spirit affect operational effectiveness? Could a force built on rapid strikes survive when reduced to mere shadows of its original design? Meanwhile, Allied Naval Command exploited every weakness. Tactical maps show coordinated multi-pronged attacks using aircraft carriers, submarines, and surface vessels designed to trap and annihilate the remaining Z-class units. Radar logs, painstakingly analyzed post-war, reveal the precision with which Allied forces anticipated and intercepted German movements. In one haunting radar screen capture, a Z-class destroyer's blip fades to black as depth charges explode nearby. Was the swift elimination of these ships a testament to Allied tactical genius, or did it expose systemic failures within German command and control? How much did intelligence breakthroughs, combined with relentless pressure, doom the Z-class before it could fulfill its promise? In the final months before their disappearance from the front lines, the Z-class destroyers became ghosts of the war, symbols of a fleeting edge lost to time and circumstance. Naval dispatches describe their last sorties as desperate gambits, often unsupported and vulnerable. A black and white photograph shows a damaged Z-class vessel limping back to port, its crew silhouetted against a smoky horizon. The once untouchable destroyers, conceived as the spearhead of a naval resurgence, were now adrift, caught between ambition and collapse. What lessons lie buried beneath the sinking hulls and shattered dreams? Did the rise and fall of the Z-class destroyers reveal more about the limits of innovation in war or the costs of hubris under fire? In the shadowed corridors of the Kriegsmarine's final days, a confidential report surfaced, its pages stained with water and age. Yet, its words sharp and urgent. Dated May 1944, it detailed an internal assessment of the Z-class program's catastrophic losses, citing not just enemy action, but systemic failures. Rushed construction, inadequate crew training, and compromised supply lines. A blurred photograph accompanying the report shows a hastily assembled crew gathered around a deck gun, their faces etched with exhaustion and uncertainty. How had the pressure to deliver results so rapidly undermined the very foundations of the Z-class's effectiveness? Was the drive to match Allied naval power blinded by desperation, blurring the line between innovation and recklessness? Simultaneously, intercepted communications from Allied intelligence hinted at deeper fractures within the German Naval Command. One decrypted message reveals sharp recriminations, with officers blaming each other for the premature deployment of underprepared vessels. A map, marked with shifting fleet positions, suggests frantic attempts to regroup and salvage what remained of the destroyer force. In the dim light of a command room, a naval strategist's handwritten note questions the wisdom of continuing the Z-class project amid shrinking resources and mounting losses. Could internal discord and mismanagement have sealed the Z-class's fate as surely as enemy torpedoes and bombs? Was the illusion of control merely a veneer over a crumbling war effort? Meanwhile, the Allies intensified their psychological warfare, broadcasting radio messages that taunted the dwindling German crews, a tactic aimed at eroding morale. Recordings from these broadcasts, preserved in Allied archives, carry an eerie calmness, juxtaposed against the chaos of battle. The sound of waves lapping against steel hulls, punctuated by distant explosions, forms an unsettling backdrop. One captured sailor's letter recounts the impact. Every message feels like a nail in the coffin, reminding us we are hunted. How crucial was morale in these final weeks? Could psychological pressure have contributed as much to the downfall of the Z-class as physical destruction? As Germany's position deteriorated, plans emerged to scuttle remaining Z-class vessels to prevent their capture. A secret directive, marked with the personal seal of the naval commander, ordered crews to disable engines and set charges. Photographs taken by Allied reconnaissance planes show plumes of smoke rising from ports once filled with these destroyers, now reduced to burning hulks. This final act of self-destruction underscored the tragic arc of the Z-class, born from ambition, undone by circumstance. Did this scorched earth policy reflect pragmatism or desperation? What was lost, not just in steel and firepower, but in the hope that these ships once represented? In the war's dying embers, a lone surviving Z-class destroyer slipped quietly into a fog-shrouded fjord, its hull scarred and engines sputtering. A clandestine photograph, taken from a distant Allied reconnaissance plane, captures this retreat, an image of isolation and defeat. In the cramped captain's quarters, a logbook entry dated June 1944 reads, "We are shadows of the force we once were, but still, we sail." This final vessel, emblematic of the class's fleeting glory and rapid decline, vanished soon after, swallowed by the relentless tides of conflict and time. What remains is a story not just of ships and battles, but of ambition crushed beneath the weight of war's unforgiving reality. Was the Z-class destroyer a bold leap forward, or a cautionary tale of innovation outpacing circumstance?